Well, you said a couple of things that I think were key. One of the things that you were talking about is helping more people, and I sense that if you want to have more hope, you help. Right? If you want to change your life and step into a greater experience, you find people that can use your gifts, your talents, your abilities, and you help them. I've used that formula for years. How about you?
Yeah, I think at the formula of serving people, I think that's why we're all here. And each and every one of us have a story that we're living out, and we're the ones that are telling the story. Yet some of the other people, do we actually have the pen? Are we creating our own story? Or have we given the pen to somebody else and living a life by default, a story that they're writing for us? And instead of being the main character of our own story, we're like a stand-in, an extra on a movie set. There's 5 areas that I've found, Ken, that people live in a story. One is they're the victim, and a lot of people love to stay there. Or they're the villain, preying on other people. But very few people realize they could be the hero of their own story and then go on to be a coach and to be a mentor to other people, serving them, as you said earlier. And I want to help people change that story from where they are to where they desire to be and eventually live a legacy that they desire to leave.
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking about, well, okay, I think a lot of people live in the story. Then a lot of times they live in the story of the past.
Yes.
And they live in the story that they were socialized into, or their peers told them this is the way. They watched it on TV, but it's not really the story they want to live. They have other stories that they want to live, but they don't know how to get from where they are to where they want to go. How do we get from where somebody is to that story, that new story about who they are, let's say, this great vision that they want to have?
It's such a great question because, first of all, it starts out with our thoughts. And we have limiting thoughts and liberating thoughts. And then those thoughts, as we state them over and over again, become beliefs. Our thoughts and our beliefs lead to our values that we live our life by, which make up our emotions. And our thoughts, beliefs, and values and emotions all dictate the choices that we make, giving us the mindset that we live by, the perception that we see the world through, the words that we choose, the character we become. And it's very interesting how by changing our thoughts, we can change our entire life, our entire world. And most people, well, they're held hostage by their past because of those thoughts. It's like we're living in this cage, Ken, and the bars of the cage are our thoughts, and that cage itself is our comfort zone, and we like it so much, we desire to stay there. And yet we're designed to be great, yet we continually sabotage ourselves by thinking these mediocre thoughts about who we are. And then we give ourselves experiences and encounter things that we really don't desire, yet we help bring them to us based upon the way that we're thinking.
Yeah. And, I think there's a key here when somebody's trying to change their thinking, and it's repetition. It's great to have one thought and you say, okay, I'm going to change up my thinking. I'm going to think of myself as a powerful manifester of my life, and I could choose to be good. I could choose to be great. That's great, but it's in my world. If you go to the gym one time and you work out, you're not going to be fit. You have to go back time and time and time and time again to get that fitness, so that you can start to really expand that. What do you say about that repetition piece?
Well, it's like our thoughts. See, when we have a thought, and to very simplify it, it shoots off of a neuron, goes along an axon, hits another neuron. In essence, it makes a path. And it's much like if you and we walked across a patch of grass. The first time we walked across it, it wouldn't really matter. Second time, probably not so much. Yet as we walk across that same path over and over again, eventually it makes a rut. Well, that's what happens in our brain because neuroscience tells us nerve cells that fire together wire together. And we're so hardwired, and our brain loves to go fast. It loves easy and simple, that we have a thought and it just automatically goes down the same path. We have to be intentional, like not walking across that same patch of grass, and we take a different route. Eventually, we can wear a path that way in the grass, and the grass then grows back in the other area, which is what neuroscience tells us, that nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together. So we can actually retrain our brain to a new way of thinking, taking us from limiting thoughts to limiting thoughts like, I'm not good enough. And if we say that over and over and over again, eventually it becomes a limiting belief that literally can play havoc with our life.
I've experienced this, and I'm wondering if you have. It seems like we share a common database, and it was Nikola Tesla that said, if you want to understand the universe, understand energy, frequency, and vibration. And I thought to myself, I wonder what that really means. So I started doing some research about it. But what I get is that when I'm in a place that my thoughts are uplifted, I'm in a good place, right? It seems like I tap into this database of good thoughts, of good thinking, of good things that I can do beyond what's normally possible. The opposite is true too. When I'm thinking, like you just talked about, self-criticism, or putting ourselves down, or believing things that aren't true about ourselves, right? It's almost we tune into this universal thought database that all these thoughts start to download. And I'm not sure if it's accurate or not, but I think it is. I think that that's what we're doing. What say you?
I think it is too. See, I have a saying that you can become you can become a garbage magnet based upon all the complaining you do. In essence, complaining equals garbage magnet. For heaven's sakes, when we're grateful for things, we find more things to be grateful for. And when we're complaining, we find more things to complain about.